Hello everyone, today's special guest is Ellen Melko Moore. And Ellen is a LinkedIn specialist, and I think she's one of the first on the show. So congratulations, Ellen. Yep, you're the first one.
Yeah,
So
exciting.
anyway, without further ado, Ellen, welcome to the Marketing Interrogation Podcast.
Thank
And
you.
please describe in your own words what you do and how you serve your clients.
All right. Well, as you know, Alan, I grew up in the world of brand. That was my background. My company is called Super Tight Social Selling, and it is a LinkedIn directed focus to help people double, triple, quadruple their business, their revenue, their ROI. Social selling is a very high touch strategy. And what it means is you're having individual personal conversations online with people that then you take to an offline conversation. And the only reason that's any different than a lot of what people do in digital marketing is that every stage of the way you talk to each other, it's very personal. And at every stage of the conversation, you're just trying to add more value to the person on the other side. So, like I was saying to you before, the funny thing is it's not really social, like social media, it's personal. And it's not selling because you don't have to get anyone to do anything. You just trying to figure out what can I help this person with? What's important to them? And LinkedIn is an amazing, amazing place to do this, especially if you have a B2B offer, if you're a coach or a consultant and you're working in that professional to professional world, because people on LinkedIn, it's just a more serious, ambitious ecology. There are fewer photos of dogs and smoothies and political excitement.
Breakfasts.
So there's just a very get down to business, get it done. And that's what I love about LinkedIn is it's a place where you can really meet people who've got the money and the sophistication to understand the value of your offer. You don't really have to justify it or explain it like you kind of do some other places.
It's funny because me and you met on LinkedIn.
We did.
Yep, and then we became friends, and then that was how I got to invite you on the show.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. And that's what's so cool about it is I don't know, I'm Alan, I'm not saying we couldn't have met on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, but because it's LinkedIn, we can see from the first time we meet each other more about each other's lives, right? It's like you can pop the hood of a car on LinkedIn. Someone talks about themselves in their headline and their about section, right? But then you can go down to their experience section and really look. You can kind of tell if someone's earned what they're talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that about LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. So, Ellen, what kind of services do you offer to your clients?
Okay, so there's two primary services, and one is so here, just background, guys. You guys may already know this, but just in case, for LinkedIn, there's sort of three components. There's three pillars that you want to have in place, and the first is your profile, your LinkedIn profile, the personal profile, not your company profile. Quick hint, nobody really cares about that. So there's that one. Then there's the messaging, the targeting, the one-on-one conversations, what's happening there. And then finally, there's what's content marketing, which is the posting.
Yes.
So the first thing we do, the kind of easy thing I do all day is I meet people all day long and do LinkedIn audits, profile audits. And so that just means I get on with people and we look through their profile and figure out quick, easy things that they can do to improve that. If people really want to kind of dig into this a little bit more and their profile is very important to them because they have a very high value customer or client, we'll do a profile makeover. And so we redo every piece of that profile so it's directed for a specific audience. And then that's kind of our get in, get out the door quick offer.
Right.
And then we also have an offer where we do.
So do you offer them a service to do that, or do you teach them how to do that?
We do it with them, Alan. I don't believe in done for you. I think done for you is fine in other mediums, but I think it really has to take the participation of both people. So we can look through a profile and tell you everything that's not there that needs to be there, but then we obviously need your contribution. to get those details.
Makes
But then we
sense.
actually do a lot of the rewriting for people who aren't as comfortable with kind of their articulation.
Hmm.
So does that answer your question?
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the second part?
Oh, just that. So, when we have larger business customers, like Alan, people have sales teams coming in, we'll work with each member of the sales team on their personal profile. We'll also teach them separate and different targeting and messaging systems so that they're not all using the same templates or wording to do the messages. And then finally, we'll teach them all like how to create their own content marketing, their own posts, so that they're always answering questions that their customers have. So
Hmm.
that's kind of like the whole enchilada offer. Whereas the profile is like get in, get out the door, get going offer.
Yeah. All right. So, Ellen, please, what was your background before you started to become an entrepreneur?
Right. Well, so I'm a little different than a lot of people on LinkedIn. A lot of people you meet on LinkedIn are former corporate. I'm actually, there's a big garbage truck outside my house. I hope it's not too loud. I'm actually
Can't hear
former
it.
academic. Good, good. I was a college English literature and persuasive language instructor, so I've always been interested in the words, right?
Uh-huh.
And I left and escaped academia and started my first business. I worked with people in book clubs, in reading groups. Do you have reading groups? You have those in the UK too,
Yes,
right?
yes, we do.
Yeah. So people who are in those groups, a lot of them are very, very passionate about what they're doing. They're kind of lifelong learners. And so we created resources for them to have better discussions about books. And that's sort of when I fell in love with highly specialized offers, very tightly niched offers, which is why we call it super tight. Because everything we do is about this very highly targeted offer and the expression and articulation of that offer. So that's how I got into this. And because of doing that, I got to do work for Oprah Winfrey Book Club and The Early Show and public radio and all these people at the time who were doing book club stuff. And because I had that teaching background, then I got into training other people how to create super tight brand. And then now this new technique of super tight social selling, which I love because
Hmm.
it's so personal and I don't have to sell things. So that really makes me happy.
Right. You studied English literature. That must be
Yes.
one hard subject.
I mean, I
I
suppose
did that. I did that for my A levels, and that totally killed me.
what did you study in your A levels? What books?
William Shakespeare and John Donne.
Ugh, John Donne. I feel for you there. Like Shakespeare didn't really open up for me until I was in grad school, and then it kind of did. But the problem is, you're not supposed to be reading Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare would have literally rolled in his grave if he knew like junior high and high school and college level students were like sitting there with a book of his stuff. Like I think he would have just hated that.
It was
He was an
torture. Let me tell you.
entertainer. You know what I mean? He was very much the Michael Jackson of his day. So I think that would make him sad. I think he would feel for you on that one. Yeah.
Ellen, how do you use LinkedIn, or how do your clients use LinkedIn to convert, let's say, a prospect to a client? How do
I think
you
that
show your clients how to do that?
I think the biggest thing is don't be in a rush because you got to remember of every single person you're talking to, perhaps 1 to 2% might actually be shopping for a solution right now. The other people aren't shopping for a solution right now. So I personally like a long game better. And I think you can always tell. I think people are weirdly psychic with each other in the sense that what we teach our clients to do is to develop a long-term sustainable strategy that's going to continue to work day after day, month after month, year after year. And not only that, but they're going to get better at it. Like every week, they're going to get a little better at it. So our goal is to help them get whatever immediate clients or customers they can get. But it's a bigger picture of how is this going to build the business year after year after year. And the way you do that is two things. One is really great content marketing, not thinly disguised sales copy meant to look like content marketing. And what I
Hmm.
mean about that is like a lot of times you'll see people put out headlines like, what is super tight social selling? Well, nobody's asking that. That's not a real headline, right?
Aha,
Like,
yeah.
and so then if I spent the whole rest of that article writing about myself or writing about our company, that's just sales content. And I don't we get them away from doing anything like that. We get them away from, it's fine to post pictures on LinkedIn once in a while of your conference or your meeting or your victory, whatever, but that should be very minimal among content. What you really want to do in content is answer people's questions. We have a client here who's like probably one of the biggest content marketing guys in the world. He's like number 2 or 3 in the
Wow.
world on content marketing. He is a LinkedIn client for us.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he said, Ellen, every website, every profile, every podcast, like everyone's talking about why they are better or different, right? Because we've all been trained. This is what's better and different about me, but hardly anyone commits to answering questions. Like, and the questions people actually have, not fake questions like, what is super tight social selling? That's not a real question, right?
Yes.
So he said when they work with the big companies, Fortune 500 companies, it's the same thing. Those people do not know any different than those of us who are a few rungs lower, on
Mm-hmm.
the ladder. They're trying to do the same stuff. They're trying to like, okay, am I supposed to expand my brand? What am I doing here? They don't really know. And so it comes down to, if you have that long-term commitment to answer questions, if you have a long-term commitment to treat each person like they're an individual and not like a prospect,
Mm-hmm.
like really, like for real, not just like, oh yeah, you're a person to me, Alan. No, not like that. No, like you're Alan. If you ever become a prospect, that's fine. But that's not how we're starting, right? So I think those two things, commitment to answering questions and commitment to treat people as individuals every stage of the way. And for the companies we work with, the people who are looking to buy, who have the money, who have the interest, they will let you know. You don't have to chase them down. They'll tell you.
Okay.
Like once they understand you have answers, they'll come to you with questions. Yeah.
Right. So you're saying that with LinkedIn, what you're doing is you're using it to build the relationship,
Yes. Yeah.
stay on top of their minds,
Mm-hmm.
and give them good, valuable information. And
Yep.
if they're ready, they'll reach out and say, "Can you help me in such and such?"
Yeah, it does happen like that. A lot of times I'll have met with somebody, I'll have worked with them for half an hour. I may not hear from them for 6 months. But
Mm-hmm.
6 months later, they'll be messaging and being like, oh, that thing we did, I tried to do it by myself. I get that it works, but I can't quite figure it out. And, then, like I said, they'll come along when they're ready. And I know a lot of salespeople would disagree with me. And I'm not saying, oh, well, this is the only way to do it. I'm saying this is a way that works for people who are very value oriented and service oriented. And
Mm-hmm.
that if you have listeners who are like that, social selling is a great way to get it done.
Excellent tip, Ellen. Thank you. One thing I want to ask is, there's a lot of saying about automation tools now on LinkedIn. Lots of people are saying don't use it, but some people are saying cloud-based automation tools are fine. I just want to know, what is your take on that?
I don't know about the cloud based piece, but here's what I know: people can tell when you're using automation. You are not fooling anyone. And because there are other people online and on LinkedIn who are not doing that, who are being very personal in each touch, I just think I think unless your offer is pretty cheap and what you need is like a ton of people, if that's what you're going for, like if you just need a lot of people to say yes, I can see how automation might be useful. If your offer is of a higher caliber and price tag, I would stay very far away from it. I mean, first off, LinkedIn hates it, and if they find out that you're doing it, they can shut down your profile.
Mm-hmm.
The people who run LinkedIn. I don't know how they feel about the cloud-based thing, but they're not. Here's what I know about the LinkedIn leadership: they are not fond of anything that changes LinkedIn from being a network into a lead gen tool. Like they're going to do whatever they can to get rid of that. And finally, I don't think it really does anyone any favors. I just the automation. I can always tell. And when I get an automated request, all I have to do is write back with something personal, and I will know right away. So if you think people are saying something to you like, Ellen, I was so impressed by your history of accomplishment. I can tell that we share values in common. I'm really looking for a super awesome, great person like you to be in my network.
Mm.
You know, that is fake. That's an automated
Very,
message.
very
And
generic.
all you have to, it's so easy. Like as soon as I started saying it, you knew what I was doing.
Yes.
So just remember that's what it's like for people on the other end. Now, if you're using automation and it's working for you, I'm not going to be the one to go, oh, you shouldn't. Like, God bless. But if you're thinking about it, don't go down that path. It is not a good idea.
Great tip. Ellen, how do you find prospects on LinkedIn? I know they have a lot of extra tools, add-ons. Like there's LinkedIn Premium, there's Sales Navigator. What do you use?
So we do use Navigator because we have kind of a specific person who makes a good client for us. And they're usually a leader or a founder or a VP of sales or marketing. And they're in a company that's a certain size, about 1 to 20 million, small-ish company. Sales team might have, 3 people, 4 people, sales and marketing together might have 5 to 10 people. And that's a company where they're already very successful. They're doing great, but they don't quite know how to use LinkedIn yet, or they don't really understand what social selling is. And the content they're putting out is, just a bit blah. So that's the company we're looking for. So Sales Navigator is a godsend for that. That's Sales Navigator. I think it's $60 a month.
Yes, it's quite expensive actually.
But it's so worth it if you're, looking for a customer that's between $5,000 and $50,000 a pop. Like, bring it on. The $60 is no big deal. It's because then you can tell who's there. You can see who else is in the company. Most importantly, you can see if anyone from that company has been active or posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. So obviously we don't want to talk to people who haven't been active on LinkedIn for the last 30 days because that means they don't care, right? Probably. So I think we mostly use Navigator to kind of check out people and companies that we've been told about. We do have saved Navigator searches, but a lot of who we meet does come through old-fashioned introductions and referrals and, you want to see this person or that person. And so I think of Navigator as kind of more of a discovery tool, a research tool, but you can certainly use it. The search stuff is so sophisticated. You can create a search very, very specifically by industry, by interest, by size, number of employees. And if you're going after those type of companies, like not solopreneurs, for solopreneurs, Sales Navigator is not useful. I don't think it doesn't work for me.
Right.
But again, if you're going after a larger company as your client, then it's very worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Because as I said, it's quite an expensive tool to have as an add-on to a free platform.
Yes, it really depends on who your client is or your customer, Alan, I think.
Okay, good to know. And for the prospects on LinkedIn, so you're saying you spend a long time messaging or posting content to nurture them so that they become a warm, get to know you, so that when they're ready. So my question is, how long, Ellen, would you recommend a person to be on LinkedIn? Would you say every day?
I'm on it every day, about 3 times a day, Alan.
What about weekends?
I don't. I know lots of people do. And I think if you're kind of looking to gain a toehold on LinkedIn, that might be a real good strategy. I do know people who are on it on the weekends, and it's kind of a Wild West out there. So during the weekend. So I think that could be an advantage if you're kind of looking to break out on LinkedIn.
All right. And can you give an example of a success story you've had with one of your clients using LinkedIn?
Okay, so I was going to tell a story about there's this company. I'm from Denver, Colorado. There's this company here in town. It's a tech company. It has something to do with blockchain, if people know about that. I found this woman who was part of it, and she had also had an academic background like me. She loved books. Now she's involved in brand and marketing. And I reached out to her and we just became friends on LinkedIn. And she invited us to come do a big presentation for their entire building, 200-300 people on what's going on in LinkedIn. So that was a recent success that happened for us. But you're asking about the clients. One of my favorite stories, there's an older gentleman. I'm going to change his name to Adam just to protect his anonymity, but he has he's in his 70s. He has a successful business in Canada, but he really needed some new blood. And so he had got one of his younger relatives was going to come in and help him with LinkedIn because he didn't understand LinkedIn. And he was like, why am I using this? And, so anyway, we wound up teaching him and the relative all these different techniques, the stuff about the profile, the stuff about messaging and targeting, the stuff about content. And he unexpectedly fell in love with it. And he said, this is the best year of business they've ever had. It only just got started. As you know, it's just the end of February. He's doing business with people that have known him as an individual for ages, some of them, but they never really knew what he did. Like they didn't get it. But now they're friends on LinkedIn. They see what he's posting. He has just come alive. And for him, as kind of an old-fashioned networker, he understands all the stuff that we're talking about. He understands reciprocity and relationships and, going slow but steady and all that stuff. But it's so cute to see him. He's like on LinkedIn all the time. He's always prospecting. And, he'll be like, oh, come look at this person, come look at that person. And then what's the trail to create a relationship with this person? And again, he doesn't have that like, oh, I have to be friends with them and now they're going to have to be my client. It's not like that. Like he's just excited to really build his network in kind of an old fashioned way, but he's already having his best year of business in years. So he's one of my favorite people to talk about because people are like, oh, LinkedIn is hard and it's its own weird thing. And it is its own weird thing. It definitely is. But I think once you've let it into your heart, and I know that sounds cheesy, but for me, it really was that. Like once it's really became part of my how I feel about people, just like it did for my friend Adam, my client Adam. And it isn't like this thing that you're doing, that you're forcing yourself to do. I think it really opens up just like any other relationship.
Okay, awesome. Well, last question, Ellen. I know a lot of my own clients, they have problems or issues, even me myself, and that is when we message the prospects. Some of them we just hate doing it. It's like a mindset issue. Like, oh, this is the part which we hate. So how do you advise your clients to overcome that, or have you ever come across this issue before?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I totally understand that. And I've had many different messaging strategies in the time I've been on LinkedIn, many of which I loathed. So the one I like that works well, I'm never targeting somebody. I'm never sending them a connection request without, first I try to have other interaction with them. I like or comment on their post if they've got it. Some of them, they have a great post. I'll reshare that post. I'll do something first, and then I will send that connection request. And I'll be like, hey, I'm the person who blah, 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 right? So, and then that they know who I am, most of them, by the time I message them. And I'm just giving them positive affirmation. So they're usually amenable to accepting that connection request. And then the thing we do with people is that next message. I think people don't like messaging because they don't like selling. They don't like the feeling of, I want this person to do something. And I agree. I hate selling. I'm not good at it. So when someone has accepted a connection request, I do one of two things. Either I say, hey, thank you so much. I don't know if you're on LinkedIn for, business development and to improve your sales. If you are, here's a piece of content that I think might be useful. And I'll send them a link to like one of my best, here's what to do on LinkedIn to build business pieces. And that will start a different conversation. Or I'll say, hey, I love what you're doing here and here on your profile. You might want to consider adding in this piece. So I'm, again, every step of the way, I'm trying to think about how can I give them value? Like I'm not asking them to do anything. And so I think and listen, it's easy for me, right? Because it's LinkedIn and I have a LinkedIn offer. So what do you do if you don't have a LinkedIn offer? Again, you have to find a way to help people with something that they need, that's on their mind, that's not your agenda. Because if it's your agenda, it's going to feel gross. Like, and maybe you just push through and it feels gross and that's how it is. Like, which again, I'm not saying you shouldn't do, but I think it's more important if you can figure out what can you help them with that they want help with. Like, just start there, and you don't have to it doesn't have to feel so scary. Does that make sense, Alan?
Yes. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. And that is, people are afraid because they have a hidden agenda.
Yes.
When they message someone.
That's why you're afraid, because you're an honest person and you do have a hidden agenda.
Yes.
And yet it's not hidden, because we all know what it is. Just like you guys all know what mine is. You know what I mean? We're here to do business. And I think it comes from, in the olden days, Alan, you and I would have lived in a village somewhere of 100, 150 people. And I'm talking about way back for most of humanity's history, right? Until a couple hundred years ago, we would have known each other for a long time. And that's why we'd be doing business. So people just need to remember that even though we live in a digital world, the human brain has not changed very much. So take time building relationships. And people are like, oh, but it takes so much more time. And I'll say, well, yes, it does. When I find a quicker way to make $1 million that does not involve building relationships, I'll be out there letting everyone know, because I'll be a billionaire, trillionaire real fast, right? In the meantime, though, it is a reliable thing you can do. And if anyone listening to this, I have a link underneath my link in my about section of my LinkedIn profile. I do have a link. If you'd like to sign up for a LinkedIn profile audit, you can get on with me for half an hour. We'll look at your profile. I will give you some suggestions for things to do. And you do not have to hear about my offer unless you really want to. Like, we don't have to talk about that. And that's the way it works.
Excellent. You share some great insights, Ellen. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Please, if people want to connect with you, want to know more about your services, where should they go?
Just request me on LinkedIn.
So you have a LinkedIn profile?
I sure do. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have one of those. Yes. And our website is supertightsocialselling.com. You can find me there.
I'll be posting the link in the description as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm always happy to help if I can. It might take you a minute to get on my calendar, but you will be able to get on my calendar, and we can sit down and look, because that's the best part of my day. So please reach out.
Okay. And you can also reach Ellen at her LinkedIn profile, which is ELLEN. Melko is MELKO. And Moore is MOORE. Search for her on
no
LinkedIn. No
hyphen in that last name. Yeah.
Yes, no hyphen. And also, please check the description for the links to Ellen's website. I'll be posting them there. Ellen, thank you for being on today's show.
Thank you. It was lovely, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was lovely to be here.